Well, good evening, everyone. I began a forum such as this one a few years ago, quoting President Franklin D. Roosevelt, our 32nd president. And I think his words that were spoken then are appropriate this evening. He said, "Democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choice are prepared to choose wisely. The real safeguard of democracy, therefore, is education." And so I wanted to begin by commending those of you who have taken time to become educated voters. I think I can speak for the Lions Club and the Warsaw Business Association to say that that's the mission of tonight's forum, to provide you information and insight into the candidates. And also to the candidates themselves, I commend each of you for your interest in running for a seat on the Board of Education. There might be some that would say maybe it's a thankless job, but I would like to think that there is a lot of good in it as well. I'm sure that the best interest of children runs in the heart of your passion, and perhaps looking at President Roosevelt's words through a different lens, that of a school district, they're just as appropriate, right? Education is the real safeguard of our democracy. So you can kind of flip that a little bit and it still rings true. So we're here tonight to inform, to educate, to gain some insight specifically into the candidates for the Riverview Board of Education. So it's kind of nice to be able to focus in on this one race. We've set aside about an hour and a half to do this. If that prompts more questions or later opens up a dialogue one-on-one with the candidates, then I feel like we've accomplished our mission tonight. This forum will be designed in two parts. We'll first take some time to get to know each one of the candidates and their backgrounds. Then we will open it up for questions. To facilitate that, we have some index cards. If you came in after I was passing them out, we have them down here in the front of the stage, and some pencils if you didn't think about bringing something like that to write with. We invite you to write your questions on those index cards. During this first half of the program, we'll take a short break for about 10 minutes or so. That'll give us time to collect those and maybe put them in some sort of an order. And then we'll return to explore those questions that are on your mind tonight. So as we begin, does anybody not have a card that would like one right now? If we could get them passed out now, that would help keep things moving. Is everybody good? Raise your hand if not. Okay. If that changes, again, they're right here in front, and you can come and get one. So the Riverview Board of Education, like all the local boards of education, are composed of 5 members. In this election cycle now, 2 members, 2 seats are being decided upon. The remaining 3 would file for election in 2023. Alphabetically, as their names appear on the ballot, Kennedy Blakely, Cordell Brown, Matthew Cronin had some other obligations, so he was unable to be here this evening. Mindy Duncan, Michael Warshauer, Charlie Wright, and Bethany Young. So as we begin, if you just join me in welcoming them here tonight and taking their time. I'll give you another opportunity at the end of the evening as well. But in order to keep things moving along as we ask the questions, as they make their presentations, I would just ask that you refrain from applauding or making comments, and that'll just help keep things moving along quickly so we can get you back home tonight. So we'll begin with some opening comments by giving each of the candidates up to 2 minutes to share about themselves, the qualifications or experience that they would bring to the table as a seat on the Riverview Board of Education. So we're going to start just going alphabetically, and then throughout the night I'll mix it up so we're just not in the same order all the time and everybody's speaking after the same person. So we'll begin with Kennedy Blakely.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Kennedy Blakely. Many of you likely know me a little bit better by my maiden name, which was Kennedy Webb. I am a 2015 graduate of Riverview High School and a 2018 graduate of The Ohio University with a Bachelor of Science in Communication. I decided to run for the Riverview School Board of Education because I have a very vested interest and a deep love for the community. I have lived here my entire life. My entire family has attended Riverview, going back to my great uncle, who was actually a member of the very first ever graduating class. So the black and gold run deep. And I love this school, I love this community. My two beautiful nephews attend Warsaw Elementary, and my beautiful niece will one day attend Warsaw Elementary. I believe that I have a unique perspective that could be of value to the board. I worked as a news reporter with WTNS Radio for a great many years, as well as briefly at Wiz TV in Zanesville. During my time at the radio station, I actually had the privilege of covering the Riverview School Board of Education meetings, as well as Coshocton City School Board of Education. So I really feel like I have a good grasp on the challenges that the district has been facing over the past few years, as well as many of the things that they are doing a fantastic job on. I also am, I know that I'm young, but I feel like that is also an asset because I can remember what it feels like to be a student. I remember the challenges that I faced and that my peers faced. I know the challenges that my sister faces as a parent, so I can sympathize with other parents. I have many educators in my family, so I feel that I get a good grasp on what the educators feel. And I feel that most importantly, we need to get creative about our funding. I know that state funding is a major, major issue and something that many of our great representatives are working to fix. I know that here I just really would like to continue the tradition of excellence. So thank you very much.
And next we'll hear from Cordell Brown.
Cordell Brown, if you don't know me, you're fortunate. My wife and I moved here in 1966 to start on hills, and our dream at that point was just to build that camp that still operates. That program now equals the budget of our school system here, and it's known as echoing those roads. I had two sons go through Riverview High School along with my granddaughter and my two nephews. All are graduates of the echoing. So the reason I'm running again is I believe my experience, not only 16 years on the board, but also 55 years at Echoing Hills. I want to do something different. I've not done this before, but I want to tell a short story so you know my heart. Because here at Riverview, our slogan is Kids First. About 25 years ago, I had the privilege of starting a work in Ghana, West Africa. And when we began that work, I was new in traveling in the third world. and we were going through institutions in Accra, Ghana, and my dear friend and co-worker, Mr. Samuel, I'm done, sir.
And we're going to give him a couple minutes at the end too, so anything else that you wanted to share beyond the questions, you'll have that opportunity.
May I just say this? We went through that institution, and there was a 3-year-old young boy living in this institution on a concrete floor, and the caregiver said he'll never amount to anything. And he had cerebral palsy, we could tell, and I walked outside with tears in my eyes and said to myself, there but by the grace of God was myself. So that's one of the main reasons I want to continue to serve. Thanks.
All right. Mindy Duncan.
Good evening. Oh gosh, so loud. Thank you to the sponsors for tonight's event, just allowing our community yet another opportunity to get to know your candidates. Lucky us, we got 3 different times that we could come and speak in front of people. We're all super excited about that. For those of you who do not know me yet, my name is Mindy Duncan. I'm 42 years old and a 1997 graduate of Riverview High School. I'm married to Dan, and we have 3 sons. Bryce is a 2019 graduate of Riverview and a 2021 graduate of The Ohio State University. Evan is a senior at Riverview, and Braden is a 4th grader at Warsaw Elementary. I am a financial analyst at Kraft Heinz in Coshocton, where I've been for the last 12 years. I've been the organizational advisor for Ridge Runners 4-H Club for the last 10 years, a swine rep for the Coshocton County Junior Fair, a co-coordinator for the United Way campaign each year at Kraft Heinz, and the team manager for our youngest son's travel soccer team. I have more than 20 years of experience in business finance, with the most recent of those being at Kraft Heinz. I have extensive budgetary experience and am well-versed at working within financial constraints and scrutinizing spending, ensuring necessity, and gauging criticality. Fiscal responsibility and accountability are imperative. I believe that my financial background, coupled with my demonstrated ability to lead and work as a team player, would make me a valuable asset to the Riverview Board of Education. Thank you.
Michael, you'll be next. Okay, and Michael Warsaw.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Warschauer, and I went to Reynoldsburg High School and graduated from The Ohio State University way back in 1991. Some of the things that I have an interest in are American history and promoting those common sense values that our parents and our teachers taught us. Yeah, I'd like to continue the tradition that we have here at Riverview. Riverview educated both my daughters and my wife, so I've seen the results of a good quality public education. And I'd like to help provide better learning and work environments for the Riverview School District. In terms of work experience, I've been employed by United Healthcare for almost 29 years. And I think being a parent gives you quite a bit of experience with schools. And so I would bring that to the board position as well. Thank you.
And Charlie Wright.
I hope it's okay that I stand, because I don't sit real well, and I'm nervous. I'm Charlie Wright. I graduated in 1998. I have 3 kids in the school, Abby, Elin, and Berkeley. Abby's my oldest in the junior high, and Elin and Berkeley are in Warsaw Elementary. I'm part of the fire department up in Warsaw. I've been there for 20 plus years. Don't seem possible. I'm not that old. In the past, I've worked here at this school as a sub janitor. My dad, actually I worked for Gene Kilpatrick for a little bit. My dad stepped in as the maintenance supervisor, I guess you'll say, and I started subbing with the janitors here. A lot of experiences, a lot of relationships. Some are still working here, some are sitting here. It becomes a family at some point. I want to keep that here. I feel there's some sort of divide, not just happening in this school, but happening in a lot of schools. Saw a video yesterday, shocked me, of stuff that goes on inside of schools. I want to be part of helping with that and being open-minded and being the person that people can come to and show me that and not throw fingers at either party. Transparent, I think, is maybe the word that was been used in the past. I'm that guy. I want to be that. I'm not a with the flow kind of guy. For something I don't like, I'll most definitely tell you. For something I do that you don't like, I'll hear it. We'll go back to some more. Thanks.
And Bethany Young.
Yes, my name is Bethany Young. I am a 2001 graduate of Riverview High School. I went on to OSU and got my bachelor's degree in psychology. As far as previous employment that might have helped me with abilities that would be good for a board member, I have worked with children. I was a paraprofessional for just over 2 years at Hopewell. I've been a daycare teacher. I have worked as an interim social services director for the extended care facility. I've been a caseworker for Children's Services, and I worked at JFS. I am currently homeschooling. That's one thing that I was brought up before that I hadn't mentioned before in the other meetings. We decided to go ahead and homeschool the girls for various reasons, and some people might think that that's an odd thing, that a person who's homeschooling would want to run for the board. But I will tell you, it has given me a different perspective, because not only do I care about the district, we still live in it, we still support it in various ways, but for those of you who don't know, who either don't know a lot about homeschooling or might think it's kind of odd, homeschool kids can still be a part of the district. They are a part of extracurricular activities. They are involved in sports, music, band. I have a handful of kids that my girls are friends with who are involved in those things. There are some parents who, after homeschooling their children through elementary school or for a few years, have sent them on to public school. For some people, that might be a concern. Why would I want to vote for somebody who's homeschooling their children? It has absolutely nothing to do with how I feel about the district. It's just a personal decision. Part of that stemmed from COVID. But we are still a part of this district, and we still care about it.
All right, thank you guys. So we're going to begin with a series of 4 questions here, and the Ohio School Boards Association identifies 4 major thrusts for school board members. Those are vision, structure, accountability, and advocacy. And so I'm going to form these 4 questions, one around each of those, in this opening session to kind of get us started. And the candidates, you'll have 1 minute to respond, and then we'll move on to the next question. So let me set my clock here. Okay. All right. So the first question then would revolve around vision. All right. So the year is 2026. You have finished up your 4-year term on the Board of Education. tell folks about the vision that you have helped create for Riverview and how you personally helped the district to get there. So we're looking ahead to the future, vision, okay? So again, mixing up the order here, Mindy, you'll be first, and we'll go down this way on the table.
Okay, I think for me personally, I want our board to be a little bit more accessible. So when I start my term, that would be my mission initially. Charlie talked about transparency. We want to talk about truth. We want our community to feel like they can come to us with their concerns and their feelings and their comments. So I think more of a presence of our board members just throughout our district, within our buildings, for our teachers. I want us to be viewed as more of a support function, and instead of, for me personally, the board was always kind of like, oh, that's the board, you can't really talk to them, not approachable. And I hope that, you know, people don't see us that way, and I want to work to make sure that moving forward, people definitely don't see us that way, and they feel comfortable that we're a team, we're a part of their team, and we're here to help you. So just teamwork and collaboration for me.
Okay. And Kennedy, tell folks about the vision that you would have created for Riverview over these next 4 or 5 years and how you helped get it there.
Sure. So my main focus would be to help reunify the district, considering the fact that consolidation is imminent in many of our elementary school buildings. I know that that is a very tough subject to broach and a very difficult one to carry out. We love our buildings, we love our history, we want to preserve those, but fiscally speaking, there comes a point in time when that is no longer feasible. So I would personally attempt to help facilitate better communication between the board and our parents, our community members, and of course our children regarding their feelings on those things. I want them to feel that they are being heard and help to use that communication as a conduit to help improve the plan and help make the consolidation plan as great as it can be, and to just reunify the district during these trying times. And in order to do that, we'll tell you later.
My vision for the next 4 years is to help the community and the administration to come up with a smooth and positive restructuring of the district. All of us know we have to do that. We cannot afford to continue the way we're going, and because I was involved in the closing of union as we began the discussions in 2016, and those will continue. So my vision is that we accomplish that by not and keeping kids first and foremost.
Okay, and then we're going to, Bethany, start down at your end with the same question. So tell folks about the vision that you would have helped to create in the next 4 to 5 years and what you've personally done to get the district there.
Okay. Imagining that's in the future and I'm looking back, I would hope to see that we've had some restructuring of the school that worked to our benefit, that we're in a better financial state than when we started 4 years ago, and that we can start looking at putting money back into the kids and their education instead of just worrying about the structure that they're in. I'd also like to see a community that's come together more, and instead of feeling like there's a lack of communication, that's one thing that they can be prideful of, that there is that communication now, that looking at it now and saying, okay, we're all sitting here basically saying the same thing, that we realize that there needs to be more transparency, that in 4 years, the saying will be, okay, we did it, and let's keep going. Let's keep moving forward in that.
Okay, Charlie?
As I pulled in tonight, the one thing I saw on 2 or at least maybe 3 cars was the Black Bear stickers over at the administration office. And I think, I don't even know if this is the biggest thing, but wouldn't it be awesome to have the pride for the Black Bears? I feel like back when I was in school, there was more pride, not just for our football team, our basketball team, just for our school in general. And what happened? What happened to that? I don't know. I'd be lying to say I knew the answer to that. So in 4 years, I would love to say, I'd love to tell you, this is where we're at. This is what we had going on, but this is where we're going to go. With as the majority of the people here has said, is bringing our community together. If it is a transparency thing, then absolutely, that's where we need to go. Be open to hear what the community has to say about our school and about our tax dollars, and not be upset when they actually cross with what we're doing with it.
Okay. And Michael, same question about vision.
Yeah, I would like to see the community and the school district work closer together. I'd like to see our kids get a wonderful education. I'd like to see the American values promoted, and I don't think that's so much an issue here, but it's something that we need to be mindful of to protect our children from those influences that may come from outside. You know, public school is like one of the last remaining places in our society where people of diverse viewpoints and diverse backgrounds come together for the kids and for the children, and that's a wonderful thing. And I want to keep that going. And if I could just be a small part of helping make that happen, so that the staff have a better working environment and the children have a better learning environment, I think I would feel accomplished. Thank you.
For this next question, Charlie, you'll be up first. So the second component was structure. And I would suspect that most people in this room identify in some way or another with the financial challenges that Riverview has faced, and more decisions likely down the road, we know. We'll likely get more into that tonight, but putting that aside for a moment, what other priority issues or challenges are a focus for you, and how would you help address them?
Education. I believe that we have some of the best staff that we possibly could have in the county. That's I'm saying that because I went here, and my kids still go here. But I also see that they spend a lot of their own money on stuff. And what can we do? What can we do to make it better? Do we have the best stuff? Do we have the best technology? Are we to the level of the schools around us? There again, I don't know that answer. If we're not, we need to be. We need to be better. We need to be the best. That's where I want to go, to make sure our kids, our teachers, have everything they need. And regardless of what we need to get rid of, that's what we need to have.
Okay. And Bethany, we're going to go to you next. So finances aside, what other major challenges or issues do you see, and how would you help address those?
Okay. One thing that has been mentioned to me when I asked the question several weeks ago about what are the 3 things that you think are positive about Riverview, and what are the 3 things that you think are needed. One of the responses that I got was the fact that there are parents who want more for their kids. There are classes that Riverview offers, and that's great, and they're getting an education that is great, but there aren't a lot of extras. There aren't a lot of additional, foreign language classes or other things. And so some of the parents want their children to have other options and other vocations to kind of look at. And that's something that if finances are aside and that's not an issue, then that's something we can focus on and see, all right, what is it that the students are really wanting, and focus on that.
And Michael, you're up next. Issues, challenges other than finances.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that it's not just the job of a school board or a school district, but helping kids to feel that they matter and that they have a purpose and that they've been gifted to serve others. Riverview is doing something wonderful with these service projects. That's something that doesn't take a lot of money, but I think it builds leadership skills in the students, and so I'm definitely in favor of those type of things that build character and show our kids that they matter, they're important, and that they can make a difference in this world. And that would be some of the other things. Some might call them soft, but I believe they're very important.
Okay, Cordell, we're going to come down to you next for the same question. Finances aside, what other priority issues or challenges do you see for Riverview, and how would you help meet those?
I feel the greatest challenge that we face, and we've done a good job, but we can do better, is to be a conservative district that teaches our children by example how to be good, solid Christian citizens. There's a scripture verse in Timothy that says, "Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believer in word, in conversation, in love, in spirit, and in faith." And my vision for the next.
Kennedy?
I think that the most important thing that we can do as both a district and as a community is to support our kids and support our teachers. The best way to do that, especially in today's very difficult, tumultuous climate, would be to make mental health resources readily available to the kids. I know that for many kids that walk through these doors and the doors of our elementary schools and our junior high, this is the best 7 hours of their entire day. They might not get what they need at home, they might not be encouraged or loved at home, and a lot of times when they come here, this is the only interaction they get that makes them feel as though they are worth something and that they are worthy of love. And I know that during my time, the staff here at Riverview did an excellent job at doing that. But in order for the staff to continue to support our kids, we have to support our staff and make sure that they have everything that they need to ensure that those kids are shown love for at least 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. Thank you.
Mindy?
Okay, so I think one of the biggest issues that we face right now, and Mr. Rinkus is actually hitting this head on, is just communication, right? I'm a mom and I have kids in the district, so I get plenty of communication about what's going on, but I don't know what my parents get in the mail outside of what they hear from me about what's going on within the district. Mr. Rinkus is doing 5 Minutes with the Black Bears. It's great. It's a recap of the board meeting and gives everyone a little bit of information about what's going on WTNS. But what if you don't listen to the radio? You know, what about a text message? Well, what if you don't have a phone, a cell phone, or you don't use text? So we need to be innovative and creative in getting the word out there to not only our younger community and our kids, but also, you know, our older community who don't have school-age children, and keep them informed of what's going on at Riverview and what's maybe coming up in the future for the district.
Okay. Michael, you'll be up first on this next one. So the third area was accountability. The question is, how do you balance providing a quality education with the need for or the lack of adequate funding? So in other words, what's your barometer? How do you reconcile the two oftentimes competing interests there?
Very carefully. Wow. Yeah, it's a balancing act. Could you repeat the question for me, please? Thanks.
Sure. Just, yeah, how do you balance, you know, providing a quality education with the fact that there, you know, we're facing this challenge of lack of adequate funding to keep everything whole anyway?
Yeah, I would say you have to be creative and innovative with the resources that you're given, and look at what you have, and see what you can do with it. And what we have is excellent teachers. What we have is excellent staff. What we have is excellent administration, and we have a wonderful board, and we have a community that cares. And so you look at all those things, and you come together as a board, and come together as a school system, and you do the best you can. And hopefully, as you start making more and more progress in those areas, you get more and more funding and support.
Okay. Mindy, we're coming to you next. So, you know, how do you reconcile these two often competing dynamics here in education?
So I think that a concept of do less with more is something I'm very familiar with, especially at my current occupation. And I think that we're doing it, right? I mean, we're already receiving less funding, and we're doing it. Our children are still receiving an excellent education. Does there have to be some sacrifice? Yes. Unfortunately, that's just how it is sometimes, but I think we just kind of continue down this same path. And as Michael said, you're going to have to get creative and be innovative and hope that things turn around maybe down the road in the future. But we're doing it now, so we just continue.
Okay. Charlie, you'll be up next.
I was afraid he's going to say that. It reminds me of I just had a conversation not all that long ago with an ex-board member, if you will. And he said there's some things you're just not going to know until you get in and you do it. And I believe this is probably one of those, and that's not a cop-out answer, because all these answers are right. But I feel mine's right too. I don't know the numbers right offhand. I don't know the cuts that needs to be made. I know that our board has done an excellent job trying to keep what our kids need, what our teachers need. I do know that. Going forward, yeah, I think Mindy's 100% right. You hope something turns around. We still have, you gotta look at, we still have people building homes, and we're still moving into our district. So we're not gone yet.
Okay. Kennedy, you're next. So, you know, how do you balance these? You know, what's your barometer?
Right. So first and foremost, I believe that our educators in our district are already doing a fantastic job at providing that quality education with less funding. But the question at hand is, should they have to provide it with less funding? And the answer to that question is absolutely not. But I believe that that comes down to the folks in the State House. I know that in our region we have fantastic representatives, and they get it. They care about Appalachia. But the state government as a whole is extremely out of touch with what is happening here. They have no idea. For them, the world begins and ends at the Olentangy River, and that's that. So I would personally attempt to further the mission of lobbying our state representatives to help restructure the funding formula, because it is simply not fair. And that way, if we are successful in that, which will take time, effort, and headache, but I believe it's worth it to try and get some things changed, not only for Riverview, but for the entire region as a whole.
Okay. Did I catch everybody on that? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, Cordell, you're up.
I believe what Kenny said is that we need to continue to push in Columbus for a equitable funding mechanism, along with the education of our community as a whole, and look at the positive side of supporting the schools. I want you to know that Ohio is one of only 13 states in the U.S. that vote on school funding. That's just a statistic.
Okay. And Bethany, we have you yet as well.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Mic problems. As far as balancing act goes, it's not an easy thing, but it has to be done. Kennedy made the point that the way schools are funded is unconstitutional, and it's an issue. It's been like that for 30 years, and 30 years later, they still haven't fixed it. It is a work in progress, and so we're hopeful overall that that will change, but whether or not that does change, we still have to deal with lack of funding. I think that we have to reassess what we have. I think that we have assets available to us, and sometimes we aren't always sure what those are. I think that restructuring the school is going to help in the long run. It's not an easy thing, and a lot of people are going to be frustrated with it. But once we do that, we can save money and put money back into where it goes, which is into the students and the teachers' classrooms, so that they can get the quality education that they need. It's not easy. And if you talk to any of the board members or even people in the community who have to fork over the money, it's hard, but I think it can be done.
All right. Thank you all. That brings us to the fourth component, advocacy. So the question is simply, how do you intend to stay connected with the public in order to best represent their interests on the Board of Education? Cordell, we'll start with you on that one.
Best way to stay connected is to be accessible, be visual throughout the community, and have the knowledge and expertise to answer questions and to promote Riverview. I had someone tell me the other night at the ball game that one of the best visual things that we have is our sports programs and our band programs, where people can actually come attend events and see what's happening.
Okay. Kennedy, you will be next.
So I feel that, I'm sorry, Ken, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat the
I was
question.
thinking of that. I should have done that. So advocacy, how do you stay connected with the public?
Yeah, so the best way to stay connected with the public, I have found that the majority of folks, according to recent polls, a lot of people use social media. I feel that although that seems to be hammered into our heads constantly, you need to be on social media, you need to be on social media, it is a necessary evil, and the district does a great job already at having an online presence. If I were elected, I would really attempt to increase that and help make that more accessible to folks, even for folks who do not have broadband, which is a challenge in this region as well. Just having public outreach and making yourself available. I mean, attending sporting events as a board member, attending choir concerts, attending elementary school events, and just being present and making yourself available for conversations is important.
Okay, and Bethany, we're coming to you next.
I think that to get the communication out there and the information out there, we have to actually be willing to talk to people. As Kennedy mentioned, online is important, but for people who aren't on Facebook or Twitter or whatever else, the 5 minutes with the Black Bears is a huge thing that Mr. Rinkus has started. I think that's important, that there's information out on the radio. I think that the Beacon and the Tribune are also good, but we've got to be a little more innovative in that area as well, because our district is so large that we actually encompass 3 counties. So that there are people that live outside of our county who don't get the Tribune, they don't get the Beacon, and they don't listen to the radio. So we're going to have to get a little bit more innovative to reach those people as well. And that might be in the form of a text message. There's the Remind app that they've started, which I think is a great idea. It could be as far as email, or sometimes we may have to mail some things out.
And Michael?
I would say by listening, one of the ideas that I found in the board policies was to have board study sessions where the Board of Education can take some time and focus on a particular issue and receive community input, receive expert advice, ask questions, but not immediately have to vote or set a policy in that session. So one of the ways I would be an advocate would be by listening to people, listening and learning from all the people that are involved in educating the students, and listening to parents and their concerns, whether they're parents of homeschoolers or they have kids in another school. That's okay, and they pay taxes, and they should have a voice too, and I'd want to listen to their input and work together with the board to make Riverview better.
Okay, and then Charlie?
This microphone's like a hot potato. Playing a game up here. One thing I didn't mention was I'm self-employed. Majority of you probably know that. So the one thing I am in the public every day. I feel like some days I can't hide. I go home and I feel like I get to relax, and about the time I think that's going to happen, somebody knocks on my door. Now it has nothing to do necessarily with school, but if somebody needs to talk or whatever the case may be, my door is always open. Anybody that is a friend of mine or knows me any sort of way knows, one, I like to talk one-on-one. This isn't me. So I'm out there. I don't know how much more. I'm not a big tech guy, not gonna lie. Maybe I'm old enough just to be able to say that. I'm not against it, because we have to have it. I'm willing to learn it. So that's what's up.
Okay. All right. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into all the...
I mean, I don't really want to, but...
Yes, we do want you to. I'm trying to keep notes up here, and it's just not working.
I'm surprised I
Thank you,
volunteered
Mindy.
for this.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm actually going to touch a little bit on it in my closing statement, but I think something, in addition to what my fellow candidates have set up here, obviously technology, it's the way of the future, right? I also find value in what Charlie has said, one-on-one conversation goes a long way. Being approachable, being accessible, attending the sporting events, supporting your school. But also, I think the board members, maybe one to each building for now, the way the campus looks, but we need to go to the school. We need to be there for our teachers and for our administrators and for our students and just be a resource for them. And I think that would make, a tremendous difference and allow our teachers an opportunity during their day to come to us with comments or suggestions, ideas, just to know that we're there to support them in anything that they might need, and maybe give them a pat on the back and tell them what a great job that they're doing. So working together as a team, and like I said, like everyone up here has said, just kind of putting ourselves out there and making it known that we're here. We're here to serve you.
Okay, very good. I know this just kind of touches the surface. There's lots of things that we could be talking about, so that's where your cards come in. If you have a question, and if you didn't get a card, again, they're down here in the front. We're going to take a break and come back at 8 o'clock. So if you have a question, put it on the card. I'll come down front here, and you can bring your cards down, and then we'll reconvene with some more questions after the break then. Okay. By the number of questions that we have received, this is going to be kind of the lightning round. So again, as you heard me say at the beginning, I mean, the idea is tonight to plant the seed, to begin the conversation if it hasn't already begun. So, just from time constraints, if we don't get a full answer in, be sure to come up. I'm sure any of the candidates will talk to you afterwards or going forward to give you a more complete answer. So, so we're going to go with 30 seconds, okay? Well, let's see how quick they are thinking on their feet, huh? Yep.
That leaves me out.
So we'll go down through these here. All right, let me make sure I got my, okay. So the first question, we know that Keene is open right now because of the federal money from the pandemic. Speak on your vision of how a restructure of the district would look. So even that goes a little bit beyond Keene, but speak to your vision of how a restructure of the district would look. We're going to start here on Bethany's side.
Okay, 30 seconds. All right, so as we know, the funding is not there, and the idea is to close Keene. Right now, there's money set aside in case we need to keep it open for another year, but I don't think that's a wise decision. I think if we close Keene, then we can put the money that's set aside back into the existing buildings. At this point in time, if we're closing Keene, we can look at moving the 7th grade up, or excuse me, the 8th grade up to the high school because there's room in the high school. You can move the 6th grade up to the junior high, and then you can take the rest of the Keene kids and split them between Warsaw and Conesville. And there you have it.
All right. Okay, Charlie?
I have no. The other day I got asked a question about, I'm not going to go so much with Keene, but as far as restructuring, why don't we restructure the district? And I said, what's that mean to you? And he said, how many people do we have going to other schools on the outer rim of our district? I said, I don't know. You tell me. He goes, I don't know that either. But he goes, I know that my daughter does. I know, and he gave me different locations around the outside perimeter of our district, of which kids go to other schools. But that nobody wants to go. We can get to that later. Come and ask me.
Okay, Michael, restructuring.
Yeah, I think it's necessary to restructure, and in terms of a particular vision, I would defer to a process that's going to be coming up to look at different options of how we can do that. So I'm not an educational expert. I don't pretend to be, and I would really be looking to those that are to give us some good advice on how to do this well.
Okay, Mindy?
So I'm not going to tell you what I think the campus looks like exactly, because that's something, I don't know. I'm not on the board yet, so I'm not familiar enough. But I would say prioritize what's best for the kids and what's best for the teachers first, and move forward from there. We do have to consider our community, but we start with what's best for kids and teachers, and we build on that. And I'd have to consult the experts on exactly what that looks like. But definitely a lot of community input on this one, I think.
Kennedy?
So I think that the most important thing to note here is that nobody knows our buildings better than our teachers and our staff know our buildings. So I feel like a lot of input from our teachers and staff would be necessary in order to make the best possible decision for the kids, and as well as information input from the parents as well. I know that redistricting and restructuring, I should say, is not fun or easy, but I believe that if our staff members, our parents, and our administration all work together, that we can probably reach a very good agreement that would be best for all involved.
There are many options that have been talked about, and what is proposed, and I agree with that we are going to put together a committee that consists of the public, teachers, the administration, and board members, and hopefully that committee will come up with a recommendation.
Okay, our next question. We know that voters have rejected new building levies. The question says decisively. If that continues, how will the board deal with that refusal, but believing that new buildings must be built? So kind of a presumptive question there, that the board believes that the buildings should be built, but the public has not supported that with levies. Kennedy, we'll start with you.
I think that the public did speak loudly and clearly when that issue was brought up last. So I feel that it should be a very decent swath of time before anything like that is brought before the voters again. I feel that we as a community need a chance to continue to rebound and continue to build. But I feel that, ultimately, we basically just need to listen to our community, and I feel like that ultimately ends up going back to the state funding issue. We cannot fund it as a community. The state needs to pay its share, and they need to own up to the mistake they've made with the funding formula.
Charlie, you're up next.
What was the question? Can you repeat that question one more time?
I
Sorry.
sure can. So voters have rejected the levies for new buildings, but there's the indication that the board believes that new buildings must be built. So how do you reconcile that? How do you deal with that?
Why? That's my question to the voters, and be open to their answers. Why is it they're voting it down? Are we spending the money wrong? Do they feel we're spending the money wrong? What is their reasoning for voting it down? Obviously, a lot of it's because they don't want to pay more taxes. Funding, as Kennedy says, the taxes are crazy. I understand it, but what would it take? For it to happen in their eyes? It's not really up to me. As far as I'm concerned, I'm here for them and to listen to what they have to say and what they would like us to do.
Okay, Mindy?
I'm not really sure I'm aligned with the presumptive question that we need new buildings. I think I've had conversations with Mr. Rinkus, and that's not necessarily going to be the case moving forward. Doesn't mean we're not going to do it, but we're going to have to get creative. We've talked about that several times here. So what does the future of the district look like? I don't know, and I can't sit up here and presume to tell you how I think we're going to build new buildings without new money. I agree with Charlie with the why. Figure out what the community wants and what the community needs, and how can we help, and how do we get there.
Michael?
Yeah, I'm one of those people that feel like it would be great if our children were learning in 21st century buildings. And that is something that the board would have to, would work out and, struggle with those issues. And I think, like other people have said, it's about communication, it's about understanding, it's about listening. And I think when people see a vision for the future that the board can communicate and that the school district, they like what they see happening in the school district, then they're more inclined to vote for those type of things.
And Cordell, we throw the question to you next.
I believe that this committee will help guide us into the future. As far as a bond issue, I do not believe that Riverview District would pass a bond issue in the foreseeable future. So we got to deal with the realities of what we have and do our very best for the children and youth.
And Bethany.
As far as not wanting a new building, I don't think that that's what the public is saying. They voted the levies down because they don't have the money. We have 50% economically disadvantaged district, so of course they're not going to want to vote a new levy. That doesn't mean that they don't want a better building or structure for their kids to be in. I think that with the restructuring, if we can do that and if we can manage our money better and try to invest it better, then we have the opportunity to maybe have the money to build a new building in the future. It's not something that we can do now because it's not fiscally able, but maybe in the future.
All right. Our next question, as has been stated, we recognize that finances are the hot topic, the big issue. The person asking the question says, everyone thinks they have a new and creative way to fix the financial problems. But this is the real question. How will you go beyond the money and help provide opportunities for students to want to be here and grow if those creative ways do not work? All right, so I'll repeat that second part. How will you go beyond the money and help provide opportunities for students to want to be here and grow if those creative ways do not work? Mindy, I have you up first on this one.
That's a great question, honestly. I think, we're just going to have to work together. I can't tell you what that looks like or how we're going to do it moving forward. I think sitting on the board, talking with other board members, talking with other teachers, getting ideas and additional community input is key there. But yeah, that's a great question, whoever asked that.
Okay, Michael, you're next.
I think that there are always possibilities. And there are ways of doing things that maybe we just haven't thought of. But when you put people together and you pray and you seek what's best for the children, then you're going to find ways to do things. And I think when that spirit is caught by a district and you have that faith, hope, whatever you want to call it, in the future, and you build upon what every parent believes for their kids, and you go from there. I think there's hope and there's possibilities.
Okay, and Charlie will be next.
Ask teachers. What is the reasons that our kids either don't want to be here or they do want to be here? I can tell you that my kids love going to school because they love their teachers. Obviously, that's 2 schools at this point. Is every school that way? Does every teacher love their kids as much as mine feel loved? If they do, problem solved.
Okay. Kennedy, we're going to come to you next on that issue.
So I think that the most important thing is that our kids have a place where they feel that they fit. I know that several kids who I personally graduated with, the only thing that was their saving grace was art, was band, was choir, was soccer or football, some kind of extracurricular activity where they had extra one-on-one time with an adult who they knew cared about them. I know that because of funding, we have had to cut art from our elementary schools, so I think that working with possibly community volunteers, the Pomerene Center perhaps, to provide those extra opportunities afterwards could be something to be explored.
Okay. And Bethany.
I think if we want to know why the kids don't want to come to school, maybe we should ask them. I think we need to figure out what their interests are, and then I think we need to support our teachers and encourage them to let them know that we support them, maybe thinking outside the box and how they go about teaching the class. Maybe, you know, getting creative in how they do it.
Okay. And Cordell, how do we help provide opportunities for students to want to be here and to grow?
We need to think outside the box. I've been doing that for years. Again, volunteers are one way. Cutting what is non-essential to provide something else may be another way. We just have to come up with ways to continue to make Riverview a district that you want to be part of.
All right, next question. Bethany, you'll be first here. In the last 20 years, total enrollment has declined from around 2,800 to 1,800. Okay, we'll assume the trend. I don't know about the numbers factually, but we'll say, yeah, trend-wise, we know that. How would you change that and remain competitive with area schools?
Okay. Well, I think that, excuse me, of course, finances is an issue. I think that if the school board can have more communication and work with like the Port Authority and talking to the community about businesses, because people want to move where they can, one, have a job and support their family, and two, have a good school district to send their kids to. So I think that being able to work with the community and find out ways to support the work growth, then you're going to probably be able to support your enrollment.
Okay. Cordell, we're coming to you next on this question. The declining enrollment, how do you change that and remain competitive with area schools?
I think that's a county-wide question because a lot of good-paying jobs have left the county, and I agree working with the Port Authority and other entities to draw people back here that grew up here is one of the first ways we can attempt to meet that challenge.
Okay, and Kennedy?
I think that, as all of us know, big, exciting things are happening and are coming to Coshocton. I know that Tiffany and her team down at the Port Authority, Sherry and Jen, those three ladies work nonstop around the clock to make Coshocton competitive and to bring businesses here. So I feel that given time, that if we partner with our local economic development team, that we can help to further that development and further people wanting to move to Coshocton, which it's happening, folks. So good news there.
Okay, Charlie, we're coming to you next.
I'm going to stay right on track with that. Since I have owned my own business, I have seen a lot of different things change from what I've done with work and where I'm going with work. The big jobs aren't there anymore. So we have to adjust with what we do. So yeah, I want to say help, shop local. That'd be one thing. Sounds silly, but there's a lot of truth in it. I'm not real sure. I'm not sure what else to add to what everybody else.
And Mindy.
I'm going to echo what everyone else is saying. I think a partnership with the Port Authority is imperative, and bringing in, new business, new industry. I will say, though, that we do have good jobs out there. Right now, the problem is finding people that want to work. So, how do we attract that talent? What do we do to get people to want to go back to work in this day and age? That's a real issue right now. But as Kennedy has said, I know Tiffany personally, and I know they're working very hard to bring the very best to Coshocton. So just hoping for better things moving forward.
And Michael?
Yeah, I think as we, communicate better just what Riverview offers, Riverview can be in a very competitive position with the other schools. I think school sports is one of those things that public schools do really well, and is an attractive feature to a school system. There are other things about Riverview, and as you talk to people about that, that can help them make those decisions to have their students educated here.
Next question. This question deals with the role of board members. And it specifically asks, what is the role of a board member when someone from the public comes to you with a school problem, a complaint, and they recognize, yes, you listen, but then what? Okay, what do you see as the board's role in that sort of a situation? Charlie, we'll start with you.
For some reason, I feel like I knew who asked this question, but I'm going to go to the superintendent. A lot of things that people have concerns with, and the one thing that I have worked really hard with guys that's in the fire department or in my Bible study in a group is to keep things to myself, but to who it may concern. I would have to let Mr. Rinkus take care of that with my support for him.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, I think it's certainly listening, and it's certainly directing people to the proper channels, and starting with if the situation's like something between a student and their classroom, if they can work that out between the teacher, and kind of working up the chain instead of going directly to the top. But if someone comes to me with something and I hear that from more than one person, then that's when you start to have those conversations with the administration. I think we have an issue here.
And Kennedy, we'll come to you next.
As a board member, it's important to remember that you are one piece of a 6-piece puzzle. You have your other board members, that's the 5. The 6th piece, of course, is the administration. So as one person, what I would do in that situation would be to bring it up at the next board meeting, receive input, and very much detail the situation and the complaint at hand to my fellow board members, and then we could all work together as a group to move forward and make a decision on that with guidance and input from the administration.
Okay, and Mindy, role of a board beyond just listening.
Yeah, I think we're the facilitator of the information, right? So it's our responsibility to get that information wherever it needs to go, probably Mr. Rinkus. And then I think important also is just follow up with whomever we were speaking with and ensure that they got the answer that they were seeking from the administration. So it's a 2-part scenario there.
Okay. And Cordell?
First of all, the board has 2 prime responsibilities. One, to hire the superintendent and treasurer, and 2, to pass the operational budget and make sure that administration stays within it. Secondly, if someone comes to me, I talk with the superintendent and we go from that point forward.
And Bethany.
As a board member, we're charged with listening to the community, and if something is brought to our attention, then we are to address it. But we are, as a board member, responsible for policymaking and holding the superintendent and the treasurer accountable. When something occurs, if it's been brought to their attention, it needs to go through the chain of command. If it's done so and then still been brought to us, then we are charged with holding the superintendent accountable for managing that situation. And if it's not been addressed, then we need to discuss it with the superintendent.
Okay, new question. This person has a concern about the lack of creative arts in the elementary school, at the elementary level. She recognizes, or he recognizes, that this has led to less participation at the high school level. How would you help solve this problem? So specifically around the arts. Cordell, we'll start with you on that one.
Well, the reason we have that in the elementaries is when we made the round of cuts after the levy failed, we had to cut some programs until we can reorganize and reconstruct where we're going. There's not a whole lot we can do. It's reality.
Okay, Bethany?
Well, with the cuts, that's created an issue. It's something that I would hope that we could bring back with restructuring. Hopefully we'll save that money and then we can revisit having a full-time art teacher in the elementaries to encourage that growth.
All right, Kennedy?
First off, I want to say that this person and I definitely share a little piece of our heart with art. I loved art. It was one of my favorite subjects in school. I was a choir kid, even though I couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. So I believe that having art is imperative to development for our kids. That being said, I know that it's not feasible to have art in our elementary school buildings at this time. That is why, as I mentioned a little earlier, and it would be a conversation to have with Ann Cornell and the folks down at the Pomerene Center. We have a wonderful art center and art community here in Coshocton. There was a point in time where Coshocton had more artists per capita than New York City. So art is the lifeblood of the community, and I feel like if we help get our kids and parents connected with those resources, that can help bridge that gap.
Charlie?
I'm the same as Kennedy. One thing, I love art. I love singing. I love anything that I can use my hands. Most of the time, if my lips are moving, I'm usually pretty good. Stood many times on this stage, doing singing and whatever. But I don't know how you fix the problem other than ask. I'm always about asking because I never have all the answers. With somebody that you know what our budget is, there's nothing to be hid there. But is there something that you see that could be changed to bring that back around? Whether it's a cut or well, I don't know, whatever it is. But I think it's important. I think what Kennedy also says is pretty cool also.
Yeah, so I'm going to echo the same comments, but for me personally, I would seek to understand the why behind, why was that particular program chosen, and then just build from there, and maybe look at where we are now and what other programs we're offering. Is everything being utilized to its full potential like we had thought, the programs that we kept, or is there opportunity to maybe reduce another program and bring art back in elementary? Because like Kennedy and Charlie, I do believe it is incredibly important, and it's some of my fondest memories of elementary school were art class. So,
Michael.
Yeah, I don't know how much more I could add to that except to say that there's ways of incorporating art into other classes and having enrichment and other times where you can get more of that art into the curriculum, and that's something that the board and those that look at those things would have to say, how can we do this? Because kids need that self-expression, and we want to provide that opportunity for them. So how do we do that? Again, very carefully with the balancing of the budget.
Okay. I saw like 7 questions here, so I'm not sure that we're going to get to all of them tonight. But if you had a question that didn't get asked, again, I think the candidates are willing to stick around and you can come up and engage in some conversation with them. One that I kind of did find interesting here that I wanted to be sure to work in, Michael, we're going to start with you, so just to give you the heads up here. I want to throw in, I think we've all heard the phrase that, it takes a village to raise a child. And that comes to mind when I saw this question. What will you do to involve the community as a whole with the school as a whole? So how do you get the community more involved in education?
How do you get the community more involved? Wow. I think having 7 candidates for the Board of Education is a sign in a positive direction. And I think, we all have to kind of look at the situation and say, what do we want for our community? What do we want for our school system? And how can I play a role in that? And, casting that vision and being open to people with those ideas.
Mindy?
Yeah, so I echo what Michael said, and I think it's, there's not one right answer to this. We've kind of touched on this throughout the evening, different avenues. How do we communicate? Is it online? Is it text messages? Is it newsletters? We want to put ourselves out there. We want to be there in person, but maybe it's more nights like these, right? Maybe not quite as formal. But meet at a church somewhere and make ourselves accessible once a month or once every quarter or whatever the community needs from us. Just let us know and we'll be there.
And Bethany?
I think as far as community involvement, I think if we are open and create open dialogue, that helps. If we are opening our doors and welcoming people in, then people feel more invited. I think that one thing that was asked amongst us candidates was, would you like a tour of the schools? Okay, yeah. I haven't had mine yet, but that's something that I want to schedule. But I think that if we're creating a dialogue with the community and we're being open about what's happening and we're letting them know what's going on, then they have an opportunity to come to the schools. They have an opportunity to be involved in those things. And it's going to be difficult for working parents to come during the day, but maybe there are things that we can get them involved in the afternoons, evenings, or even weekends.
Cordell, involving the community.
I think we're going to start that next Wednesday with coffee with Chuck at the Coffee Connection, so bring your dollar because it's half price. So we are starting that. Mr. Linkus is starting a program called Coffee with Chuck, and as long as he's buying, I'm coming.
Kennedy?
I think that we as a society as a whole almost need to be reminded of the fact that if we don't have kids in our community and those kids don't grow up and those kids don't stay in our community, you don't have a community anymore. So I think that the community as a whole needs to really, take notice and pay attention to our kids. It comes down to investing in our children, investing in our future. And again, a key element of that is supporting our staff and our teachers, but involving the community, just public outreach and things of that nature as well.
And Charlie.
I just got asked this question not all that long ago, and I re-asked the question back to him. Well, what do you think? That person didn't have the answer either, so don't make me feel so crazy. But everybody's right. That's awesome about Chuck. A lot of it's, I think I told him one time in a meeting that a lot of it's with him. And to be a person that goes around, not just in his school, which he's doing, but be open to his community, which he's doing, which all that falls also on us. So the trust is there, and the community feels a part of our school district.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, just kind of as a matter of transparency myself, and then certainly as the candidates, if you want to jot some notes down here for these other questions, and then if folks want to engage with you. One of the question revolves around, and I've seen it myself, the commercials coming out of the Virginia governor's race. What should be the role of parents in their child's education and what a school should teach? So if you want to touch on it in your closing comments, fine, but at least be aware that that's a concern or a question that someone had. Another one, what sources, references, or expertise will you use to determine the best response to policies and mandates that come down? And that's pretty broad because there could be a lot of different policies and mandates, I understand, but what sources, references, or expertise will you use to determine the best response? There's a question involving what role do you believe the union plays in board decisions? And also, we've heard a lot of comments up here about, creative responses, innovative approaches, and this person wants to kind of add some meat to that. Give some examples. How are you going to be creative or innovative? So we'll leave you with that. And then what we want to do is give each of the board candidates a couple minutes to have some closing comments. Another question here that I thought would be good if you can think about weaving this into that. What one idea that you think will make a difference would you introduce to the board? Okay, so, Cordell's the incumbent on the board, but the rest of you would all be new on the Board of Education. What one idea that you think would make a difference will you introduce to the board? So I'll give you 10 seconds to think about that. And if you could kind of maybe weave that into your closing comments. And I'm going to reset my clock here for 2 minutes. And we're going to go in reverse order how we started. So Bethany, you'll be up first.
Okay, that's an awful lot to try to fit in. Okay, but I'll try. A parent's role in education, okay? I believe it's important. Obviously, I'm homeschooling my children, so what I decide is really important or my kids aren't going to be educated. But that doesn't go to say that a parent who's sending their child to public school doesn't have any say, because they do. It is important, and as a board member, we are representing the community who's elected us. So if you have concerns about curriculum or what is being taught, then that needs to come to us, and that's something that we need to look at. You have a role. Your children are your charges. You are responsible for them, and so it's important because you want to make sure that what school you're sending your kids to has values that go along with what you believe. As far as resources, anything and everything that's available. I think to turn someone away who might have an idea, I'm not going to have all the answers, and I'm not going to sit up here and say that I do. I will do my best to answer whatever questions you have, but I'm not going to be able to answer everything. So my biggest goal is to go find that answer. If I don't know what it is, I'm going to find somebody who does know and try to get back to you. And that means that the ideas that I have, I might not have the whole piece to the pie, but that doesn't mean to say that somebody else doesn't have part of what I need. So if we can create more dialogue and work together, then we can piece that puzzle together. And I think that with the resources we pull together, we have a rich community. Not rich in finances, but we have rich in community, in relations, in what we have available. And people can volunteer and they can use those resources and we can pull them together and see what we have to work with. As far as what role does the union play, we represent the community, and the union, if they reside in this community, we represent them as well. That's the role of the board.
Okay, well, good, but let me throw in that question. What one idea that you think will make a difference would you introduce to the board?
Okay, I don't know that I have one specific new idea. I think that it's about listening to people and finding what maybe I have missed, what's going to complement an idea that we already have. I think that discussion and brainstorming is where you get creative and where you find your answers. So I think that maybe inviting, it's been talked about before, but inviting, some high school students to come and talk, to say, okay, what their experience is as far as, going on in school, what community members, what their input is, what they're seeing, what they're not seeing. And I think having that dialogue and really creating it, which is something that's being worked on right now, but we need to increase that and grow that.
Okay,
So
we'll go to Charlie next here then. Okay, all right, so closing comments, if you want to weave that in, and I'll give you an extra 30 seconds as well. So.
All right. The first question that they asked was, what was the role of the parent in the child's education? I'm not going to lie to you. I am not a book smart guy. You put my hands on it, I can figure it out. I'll do it. I spent, you're probably going to snicker over here, but I spent my senior year mainly helping with the FFA, running the farm. I helped the maintenance guy here in this building, because that's what I like to do. And I learned, actually it helped me because that's what I do today. I work on people's houses. But the role of the parent is I want the best for my kid. I realize that my kids may not be just like me. I want my kids to do the best. I want my kids to do what they're supposed to do. I had one of my kids tell me the other day that she failed a test. I was livid. That is not acceptable, because I know she doesn't need to fail it. There's no reason to fail a test. And she got mad because one of the teachers got snippy with her. I said she had every right to be snippy with you. And I support her in 100%, because you can do better. So where does it start? It starts at the house. It starts at home. It starts with us, the parents. Is where it needs to be involved with the education. How do we get that across to parents? Because there is parents that doesn't care, which is sad. I've seen it many, many times over the last 15 years, that parents don't care. They don't care what their kids are doing at school. Idea. Far as, do I get 30 seconds for that? I got a lot, actually, just because they're ideas. I don't know if they're even real. But mainly they're what people's brought to me. And why don't you look at this and look at that? And I started with it a little bit ago as far as restructuring the district. Is it feasible? Taking that outside rim and taking it off. A lot of people will say, ugh, we're losing all that money. Are we? If we have 10 kids, these are just numbers. If we have 10 kids on a road and we're sending a bus to do pick up one, and the rest are going to another school district, is it feasible? But that's not just us. That involves multiple school districts, and it gets pretty hairy, pretty tricky, I guess, if you will, and because nobody wants to do that. But can we save money? It'd be something that I was asked if we could look at, and I said I most definitely would ask that question. So that'd be one.
Move on to Michael here.
Okay, I would say that, yeah, parents are primarily responsible for the education and well-being of their children, and I would defer to the parents because that's where that authority lies. But the school can be a partner with parents, and we can listen to parents, and we can take their concerns seriously because it's their children that are being educated. As far as a specific idea, it's listening to other people. I don't know that I have any original ideas. It comes by reading things like the board policies and seeing what is done at other school districts. And education seems to be one of those subjects that is studied profusely by our culture. And so there are tons of resources and things that board members can look to and receive guidance on. And as far as the union, they're representing the teachers, and they're a stakeholder in all of this.
Okay. So I decided to run for this position because I believe there's a need for a fresh new perspective on the board, and I can see that the board faces many challenges ahead, ranging from COVID to staffing to what the future of Riverview looks like. They're going to need to ensure that we're doing what is in the best interest of not only our children and our teachers, but also our community. And I want to ensure that everyone has a voice, and that voice is heard when it comes to educational and administrative decisions. And that includes those who have school-age children as well as those who do not. I would also work to help strengthen the ties amongst the board members themselves, because I believe collaboration is key, and it's never been more important than it is in today's world. As far as my idea, I touched on this a little bit earlier. I can't take full credit for it, though. I did speak with a few teachers about this, and that was more of a presence of the board in our buildings. And task maybe the board members with regular visits to speak with the teachers and the administrators and the students to see what's happening within our district, and to ensure that our staff and our children are heard and we're there for them. I know that Mr. Rinkus has already been regularly visiting our different campus locations this year, and for those of you who may not know, he's interviewed, I'm not sure where he's at in the process, but every single staff member at Riverview. And I can tell you that the teachers and administrative staff with whom I've spoken about this are very appreciative and grateful for his presence. I think that our school board could have that same impact. So in closing, with me, you'll get a woman who is honest and unafraid to stand up for what is right and what is best for our children. I'm someone who's fully invested in the district. When it's all said and done, I have had children in the district for 23 years. So I hope that you'll consider me as your voice for the future of Riverview. Have a nice evening.
Okay, and let's go ahead and throw in then, what one idea do you think would make a difference that you'd introduce to the board?
That was the one that I was talking, that's
that's it?
yep, that's
Okay.
what I talked
All right.
about the board members visiting
Gotcha.
the different campus
Okay.
locations.
Kennedy?
Well, first, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it, because this shows that not only do we up on the stage care about the community, but every single one of you do as well, and we appreciate that. I feel that as far as a parent's role in a child's education, as a parent or as a grandmother, grandfather, caregiver in general to a child, what happens under your roof has the greatest impact on your child's life. What happens in your four walls forms that child as a person. The next most important place that happens is in this building, or in one of our elementary schools, or in our junior high with our teachers. I know that, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of kids, unfortunately, don't have it so great at home. Not everyone has a loving household to go home to every single night. So I think that, once again, just supporting our teachers and learning more about our kids and about our specific demographics and the challenges that our kids face. Children today, unfortunately, face very, very adult problems and very, very adult situations that they, in all fairness, should not be exposed to. So I think that we as a board need to work with our community in order to help rectify some of those issues and offer additional resources to parents, grandparents, foster parents, and teachers to help those kids. Because that is truly, as I mentioned, the future of our community, and not just Riverview, but all of Coshocton. So I would very much appreciate your consideration in supporting me. I am up here, I'm in this community because I care. I have small children that I love more than anything that live next door to me, my nephews and my niece who are in the school system. One day, if God blesses my husband Nick and I with children, they'll go to this school. So I have a very vested interest in what happens in this school and what happens in this community. So my idea would just be to learn more about our kids and learn more about our teachers. As for the union representation goes, I believe that it would be beneficial to perhaps have a union rep attend board meetings regularly and just express any concerns or opinions from the union side of things to the board. I feel that that's an important voice to hear. And I think I covered all the questions, Ken. But thank you all so much. We appreciate you guys coming out, and have a fantastic evening.
Cordell.
First, I want to thank you as the community for allowing me to serve you on the board for the past 16 years. I would like to continue because I believe my experience, not only on this board, but on the others I've served, working with Echo and Hills in the school, I understand the financial aspects that we face. I also believe that although my body may be growing weaker, I believe my mind and my experiences through the past 55 years make me a good candidate, and the other thing is I want to see Riverview continue as a conservative school within the bounds of the law that we can, because it has been a conservative school when my boys went, and it still is. And I again thank you for allowing me to serve, and I hope that you would let me continue as we go through the next 4 years in changing the face of Riverview for the positive good of the children we're here to serve. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Well, so I did a little flip through the cards here, and 16 questions. I think I've done like the question answer type forum maybe a half a dozen times. We've never had that many, so you guys got a break because that means I didn't get to the 5 questions that I had for you. So consider yourselves lucky. Thanks everybody for coming out. You know, this is kind of home for me, and I really am passionate about we have to be educated when we go to the polls, and so one, to be able to be part of this. Secondly, to be back at the alma mater. I'll tell you though, I don't think I've ever stood in front of these lights. It's like, man. So have a safe trip home. Again, if you have some questions or just want to engage in some dialogue, the folks here are willing to stick around. So thanks a lot.